of jihad. Combat our destructive emotion. That's the meaning of jihad. I learned this on my Indian Muslim friend. Actually, chief minister, former chief minister, and the government, central government minister. Once he told me. Then later in America, one Muslim scholar, I sort of discussed. And then, sort of say, it confirmed what? It confirmed the real meaning of jihad. Not sort of killing other people. Really sort of combat within ourselves. Those negative things, trying to, because of that, try to stagger these negative emotions.
And do you have for us, just to come to the end of part 2, do you have a fast lane for us, like during the day? Because all of this we know, but if something attracts to us and we get angry, is there a
yes.
fast way?
So as I mentioned earlier, it really makes differences in where our day start. You make some kind of sort of pledge. The rest of this day, I should not let I myself slave of destructive emotion. I must keep human wonderful intelligence, can analyze short-term interest, long-term interest. Then basic human, the precious thing is warm-heartedness as a social animal. So remember these things. Whether believer or non-believer, I said, we are human beings. We want a happy life. So if we use our intelligence carefully, then we can take conclusion. Most of the destructions or because of the sad things or sad events on the planet ultimately lead to destructive emotion. So you make some kind of pledge. The rest of the day, I will not be slave of destructive emotion. Then, I myself also say 4, 5 sort of hours, some meditation. Then when we met with some people, and sometimes I also get a little irritation. Then I remember because of the irritation come on the superficial of your sort of impression or your mind. Then think more deeply that person also is the same human being. Some mistakes, I also made mistake, and that person also naturally made mistake. Then think, my pledge this morning, so I should not dominate by these negative emotions. It's helpful. Okay. So that's way. Then that way, get used through weeks, months, years. Then, as a person level, can transform. Or a few occasions in India, some doctors and also some other people, we met, and then one example, one doctor, a great doctor. So he treated me. So then later, his wife, later is he and his wife come to see me. Then his wife told me, my husband, after meeting you, my husband become much peaceful. Then another, my friend, one great scientist, one American, great scientist. That's what he himself has told me later. See, he told me, his sort of childhood sort of experience, he always used to get too much scold or negative sort of attitude from his father. So as a result, he himself often loses temper. After our meeting in Dharamsala, and he told me, next 7 months, anger never come. He mentioned. So then later in America, his wife also joined. Then the wife confirmed that. So you see, that's the way. Oh, we can change. We can change. Like that. So I think we should sort of have this sort of view. Things can change. Things are sort of comes and goes according to law of causality. If you put more emphasis the causes of positive result, it comes. And pay more attention to reduce or restrain the causes of negative effect, and it will reduce that way.
Okay, thank you very much. Now we want to, at the end, because time is running fast, just one question out of the audience I wrote down here, and then maybe the last 5 minutes after we have something together. So the question we got from Mrs. Langanaki, she's working in a child's hospital, is we work with children who are going to die. I believe that they already see the other world and are less afraid of it than their parents and the adults in general. Children are more connected, I believe. They are more connected to the other world, she believes. They are only sad to hurt their relatives by leaving them behind when they are passing this world. The question is, are children closer to the process of dying, and is there a right preparation for us to get to the process of dying? Are children...
Children themselves
are children closer?
Listen. If the children have some faith, their minds, like God, or God in the sense infinite life, that God is very powerful. Individual life created, this very life created by God, so very powerful. If the children or family member not much sort of interested in religion, then that moment is very, very important to try to have peaceful mind, full rest. Too much fear, not good. And too much anxiety, also not good. And even too much attachment towards their parent or their family member is also not good. So, completely. Perhaps some kind of compassionate feeling, that might be good. But basically, more peaceful mind. That's important. Even elder people, not only children, elder people, we all have to die. So, at the moment, the last minute or last day, we have to try keep our mind more restful, more peaceful. If possible, think more altruistic mind. If believer, think God, or for Buddhist, think Buddha. And mainly, in my mind, think more sentient being rather than Buddha. Buddha's own sort of the purpose of his sort of achievement for the sentient being. I think something like Buddha's own responsibility is, or Buddha's and Bodhisattva's responsibility is, taking care of the sentient being. So we, as a follower of Buddha or these Bodhisattvas, so we have to think mainly the well-being of entire infinite sentient being. In practical level, in Western mind, very practical. So, you see, that kind of thinking is sometimes it looks unrealistic. They have no direct connection with other sort of infinite sort of sentient beings or solar systems in other galaxies, limitless, but we have no sort of direct contact. So it is unrealistic, you see, thinking about well-being of these sentient beings. But, and also the taking other suffering and give your own sort of positive things, that also unrealistic. But emotional level, that really makes differences. For example, the 2008 crisis in Tibet started from Lhasa. So at that time, I think 2 weeks, I had some kind of similar sort of the anxiety which occurred 1959 after death of March. Some kind of feeling of helplessness, hopelessness. So at that time, I visualized those Chinese sort of the party secretary who made a decision on the spot. Visualize that person and also some other Chinese sort of hardliner. Visualize. Then practice. Take their hatred, their anger, their suspicion, their distrust, and give them my own trust, honest compassion. That emotional level, immense benefit. It won't help any sort of problem, but individual case, mentally, immense benefit. So like that, you see these practice in reality, unrealistic. But in mental level, really positive.